Can I ask a question about like the military, subtracted from Band of Brothers? Like when you're in charge of these people and you have to instill upon them that value that you're all in it together and you rely on one another. So how does it work when people are promoted? Do you know what I mean? Like how do you single them out for their behavior?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Sure, I know what you mean. No one is promoted arbitrarily.
Right.
It is a meritocracy. So you prove yourself. You prove yourself capable and motivated toward leading. You prove yourself the kind of guy who wants to lead out front, the kind of guy or gal who wants to lead out front, who wants to demonstrate by example, who is motivated toward the unit's mission and not toward yourself. And when us senior guys recognize that, what we know is, well, we've got a person on our hands here who might well be a leader. And so we promote them. Now, that promotion carries with it not only additional privileges in the form of pay and other perks that go along with being in a higher rank, it also carries with it increased responsibility. You are responsible for something more than yourself at this point, and more than your responsibility to the guy next to you. You now have 3, 4, 5, maybe as many as 12 people in the early stages for whom you are responsible. And the difficulty comes when you have to separate yourself from them. There has to be a certain distance that comes with rank and leadership. That's one of the most difficult things any young man or woman that gets into the military environment has to learn to do. On the day that you become a corporal, for instance, your relationship with your buddies and the people around you in your squad or in your fire team has to take on a different tenor, a different note. You're no longer just one of the guys. You're no longer the buddy. You're the guy who's in charge, and you must demand respect. You must understand that your responsibility goes well beyond just you and the guy next to you. And you must be focused on the mission, what's required of you. You start to have to look up the chain as well as down the chain. So that's a difficulty, but it works enormously because you don't just jump in there because you passed a test, or you don't just jump in there because the sergeant likes your look better than the next guy. You've got to prove yourself. And when you do, it means that you're bringing an understanding of how the system works.
Well, on a similar note, when we were talking with Jimmy Matteo, I asked him the question: how was there a separation or an isolation with Sobel during boot camp, and did that actually boil over with Schwimmer? And if so, did that solidify the men even more? And he agreed with me on that. And I want to know, how much of Sobel's isolation were you personally responsible for, or was this directly just a director and Hanks and Spielberg kind of move?
No, I was responsible for it for the most part. I had spoken with David and said, look, you're playing a very difficult role here. You're playing not only a real guy, but a guy who was a prickly character. He was a difficult guy. I want you, I said to David, I want you to understand and pick up everything that I'm going to teach you. But I don't want you to make any solid buddies and that sort of thing. I don't think that's good for you. I don't think it'll help you in your performance or your interpretation of Lieutenant Sobel. And I don't think you should do that. We had that conversation before we ever went to Longmoor. And he looked at me and he agreed with it. And I think it's one of the reasons when David injured his knee on a night operation that we had going up in the Mout area, which is military operations in urban terrain, a combat town kind of thing. David injured his knee, and there was some thought that, well, look, we'll just get him, put a wrap on the thing, and he'll be back in training and so on and so forth. And I thought, you know, let's send him out of here. let's send him to a doctor for a day or two and give him that extra level of separation. And so I approved the fact of him going back to the rear for a couple of days. I did not know, however, that that little shitbird came back with a package of pornography and chocolate bars and all kinds of pogey bait crapola that he had gotten out in the rear in London. And he brought up with him. I didn't find that out till one of my NCOs spotted it and came in and said, "Hey, Skipper, I think Sobel came back with more than he left with." And so I confiscated a few of those things. The pornography was very good, by the way. It was,